do that. I love how it does that now. It was never a
I
thing
know.
with Zoom.
Say again.
It wasn't a thing with Zoom. They brought it in recently, and it made me jump the first time. Yeah. Anyway, so this is the Spot X tracker. I've previously used the Generation 3, and they brought out this and the Generation 4. And normally I'd just rent them for ultra distance races, but I decided to buy one, and along with dropping a shit ton of cash on a large variety of other bike technology, computer things, which hurt, shall we say?
Yeah.
But I went for the more expensive one because, so the normal trackers, basically, they're just like a little box that you would cable tie onto your bike bags or something. But this one, you can do all of that. But I went for this one because you can pair it to your phone. So if you're in the middle of nowhere, you can basically get the data signal to use on your phone.
So if you can't get kind of signal on your phone, but you can use the tracker to give you some form of life.
Exactly. And like,
yep.
that's something that I think would be useful in, certain countries like Morocco, when I was in the Atlas Mountains and there's just no signal, or Kyrgyzstan, where there was just no signal, full stop. But it gives you that ability that, what you can do is it does have like an SOS button on it which goes straight to the emergency services or Highland Rescue, whatever it is. But also it gives you the ability you can message them in case there's an incident, which isn't that important. And that's where I thought it was very useful.
There you go. A bit more peace of mind and comfort for big trips and adventures when you know that actually you have got like a comms route out if need.
Yeah, exactly. And like I was going to buy the cheaper one, to be perfectly honest with you, but I said to my partner, like, what would you prefer? Very seriously, would you prefer I just forked out for the more expensive one? And she was like, yes, please. I was like, okay. Yeah. I was like, completely, like, if she turned around and was like, nah, don't be stupid, just get the cheaper one, I would have just been like, oh, okay, cool. But yeah, she sort of was like, I'd rather you got the more expensive one, which is fair enough. So I've been trying to figure out how the hell to set it up this morning, and I've not really succeeded, to be honest with you, because it had no battery in it, so I had to charge it up.
Okay, but it's just is it just a charging point? So it doesn't have an actual battery in it?
It's quite well thought through, actually. So they're AA batteries inside, but they're rechargeable ones. So the reason why that's great for when you're in some more remote countries, because sometimes you can just get hold of AA batteries. You seem to be able to get hold of anywhere. Wherever I'm in, you can always get AA batteries. So it's quite good for that. So it's got the batteries, but the rechargeable ones in it, but I hadn't charged them up, standard. But in answer to your first question, how am I after everything? I'm all right. I feel like this week I've kind of started to feel more human. It's always a minimum of a week. And to be honest, I imagine it's probably quite similar for Ironmans. Like, it's probably, it's like a minimum of a week, quite often 2 weeks.
Well, I say yes. I've not done any of your type of adventures, so I can't really compare. I'm saying, it's very similar. Not at all, but in terms of recovery.
You're doing 3 serious distances on 3 serious sports, racing it. So, like, I think there's comparable relationships to it, and like, basically, you're still hurting yourself a lot over a long period of time. So it's taken. Last week I didn't ride at all. I was knackered, quite frankly. And I think also on top of that, I had my first COVID vaccine on Tuesday.
Yes. Yeah. It's always funny. I remember when I had mine a couple of months ago now, and I was back in the UK and I was so tired because I just had a hectic week.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't sure. I had it like on a Wednesday afternoon, and then Thursday afternoon I was driving back from London to like Nottinghamshire, and yeah, just having had a busy week anyway, I was like, I'm not sure if I'm feeling tired and wiped out because I've just been like packing the week full of stuff, or is this the vaccine? But then actually, I think I got away. Well, I mean, I know it affects everyone differently. Like my arm ached.
Yeah, it's the best
Kind of
arm
over.
in the world, isn't it?
Yeah, but other than that, like my heart rate might have been a little bit higher on a couple of runs I did, but I'd got a pretty light couple of days anyway. So I think I was lucky but I didn't have huge effects. Now, whether that means I get more of an effect on the second vaccine, I don't know. But yeah, so you pretty wiped out a little bit.
Oh man. What one did you have?
AstraZeneca.
No, so I had the Pfizer one, and apparently the AstraZeneca one is the one that normally knocks you out.
Yeah.
But I think so with the challenge, basically it's all a bit bonkers on what ended up happening. So we drove back, obviously finished at Nest Point, Lowestoft on Sunday. The guys that were filming it wanted to like document the end, do a bit of an interview at the end. I was shagged. I was absolutely gone. Yeah. But what they wanted to do, like an interview bit at the end, which I thought was, yeah, that absolutely makes complete sense. It's perfect timing. But that obviously takes a bit of time. Yeah. So by the time we actually finished, it was probably 11, half 11, something like that. And the thing is, we basically then needed to drive back from Lowestoft to Bristol because, so driving down to Land's End, I'm in the Peak District. Andy, who filmed it, is in Brighton, and then Ed, who was like assisting Andy, is in Bristol. So it was like Bristol was kind of the middle point for us to get to then go to Land's End. The problem is the other way round is shit. So yeah. We had to then drive back from Nest Point to Bristol through the night, which was like 4.5 hours. And I was out for count. I was like, you can't rely on me for this because I'm going to fall asleep with my head against the window or the front of the van. I don't really know, but I'm going to fall asleep. Andy drove for about, I think, like half an hour, and then was like, no, he did most of the driving, and he was like, no, I'm not safe. I'm not safe to drive. And Ed was just like, I'll do it, and just drove through the night basically. And we got back to Bristol at like, we had to stop a couple of times because Ed was like, I need to just stop. And I think we got to Bristol at like 6 a.m. And so I hadn't really slept. And then we went, basically, I went into Ed's house, got a shower, and got on the road as quick as possible because it was Bank Holiday Monday, wanting to get home before all the
everyone else.
Yeah. So I think I was in my car driving back to the Peak District by about 7 or half 7. And I got back here on Monday at like maybe 10 and basically passed out on the sofa. And then my vaccine was like Tuesday afternoon. So I was groggy as hell anyway on Tuesday morning, had the vaccine, got home straight away out, completely conked out on the sofa. And I think I had the whole dead arm thing. And then I just felt really lethargic and just like a bit like I don't drink, but I used to drink, so I can kind of relate to the idea of being hungover. And it was a bit like being hungover, combined with just like feeling really just lethargic and a bit zonked out. And the same thing, my heart rate was definitely higher. Didn't ride for that week, and then started riding a little bit at the weekend, and then a little bit just started like couple of loose rides this week, start this week, doing a TT tonight because why not? And and then a couple of hours tomorrow, I can't remember what I've got on. Tomorrow's Friday, a couple of hours tomorrow, a couple of hours on Friday, and then basically threshold intervals on Sunday. So it's great fun.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
perfect.
Great way to shock the body again.
That always sounds good.
Yeah, and then it's all basically, for me, it's kind of, I'm going on holiday at the end of the month, but it's kind of all systems go towards the National 100, which is the start of July. And then the National 100 is a training ride for the National 24. I've not actually said I'm doing the National 24. So this is the first time I've said it.
Wow, there we go.
Yeah.
Announcement.
Yeah, well, it's been my fourth time doing it, so
yeah,
I'm kind of
using. And are those ones? So are those ones? They're like round the circuit, aren't they? Just keep going.
No, it's open roads. It's open roads.
Oh, it is open road, but it's okay. Yeah,
but it's 3 courses. It's open roads. It's in Wrexham, the National 24. The National 100 is in Wales. The 24 is in Wrexham, and I can't remember where the 12 is. But I'm going to do it basically. But in the 24 in Wrexham, it's like there's 3 circuits, and one is literally, so you start at this place somewhere up here. This is map of the UK. So you start somewhere up here, and then you ride down to where this roundabout that connects the 3 circuits. And 2 of the circuits are just out and backs. So they're pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
But one of them, and they're pretty quick A roads. And then the next one is like around country lanes, and they make you do that one at night. And it's sketchy as fuck because you're doing it at night. It's like a pig farm. And I remember the first year I did it, is hammering it down, pig farm, all the slurries come over the road. You just smell this shit in the bike. It's disgusting.
Maybe that's the idea. It keeps you awake going through the night.
I think that's why they do it, but they change the circuit throughout the day dependent on the I think it's dependent on the traffic and also dependent where the leader of the race is on the circuit at the time.
Oh wow, okay.
So
they changed.
It must be a logistical nightmare. I don't know how they do it. When I'm doing it, all I do is I'm like, where I go where a marshal tells me to go. They tell you to go left, you go left.
Okay.
They tell you to go right, you go right at this roundabout. And then and then what happens then for the last 4 hours, you ride back to kind of where you started, which by that point takes like an hour because you're screwed. And the finishing circuit is basically like a square, and on the court it's probably like, I don't know, 10 miles to finish the circuit. And on every corner of this square is a marshal. And as you go, you start at 1 o'clock, you finish at 1 o'clock. And when the marshal you go past, so obviously at some point you're going to go past between 2 marshals at 1 o'clock. So they're taking your time down every time you go past, and they kind of extrapolate roughly your distance based on how long after your time is till you get to the next marshal. It's really complicated. Basically, don't know how they do it. Just put my hands up and go.
You just ride.
I just ride. If they say that you're doing this, you've come this far, and it's like, yeah, cool, that's fine by me.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, speaking of long distance stuff, I've never done a podcast with a triathlete, first of all. So this is kind of big.
There we go. That's a bit worrying.
No, it's good. I'm genuinely fascinated by triathlon, and I think a lot of it is because I can't do it. And the reason why I can't do them is because I've got like a really bad knee problems, so I can't run. So for me, I find it fascinating because of the fact you have to train so hard for 3 sports. There's no beating around the bush. The training, the hours and commitment to that. And I know you're pro now, but when you were racing like age group, still trying to juggle life and all that training. Do you sleep?
No. It's interesting because like with the rides that you're doing, and I find that after a race, the hardest bit is the lack of sleep. Of like recovering from, you never tend to sleep the night before a race, and then you've had so much, I guess, sugar and caffeine or whatever's fueling you during the race, you're not sleeping for 4 days afterwards as well. But yeah, and when I was working corporate, I wouldn't necessarily advise this, and I can like see not the errors of your ways, but you learn and hindsight's a wonderful thing. But yeah, I'd get up and train, and then you go to work, maybe train at lunchtime depending, but then train. I'd try and work through my lunch hour or my lunch to then like be able to leave a little bit earlier in the evening, or to have got in a little bit later, and then like go home and train, and then stupidly I'd open my laptop again and do work again. So yeah, I think at some points when I was corporate world, I was kind of on that 4 hours sleep a night. And at the time you think it's achievable, and you think and you're kind of like, oh, I'm just one of those lucky people, I don't need much sleep and I can get away with it. And you can, to a certain extent, but it does catch up with you. And then I would also find that I was kind of doing everything to a certain level, but nothing amazingly well, because you're just compromised all the time. But yeah, even now, like doing the triathlon full time, the recovery aspect and the sleep is something I'm still not great at, and haven't really got my head around things. I think sort of when I went first time fully full time triathlon, and it's not that you suddenly have, well, I guess you do have loads more time in your day, although your sessions, you know, you don't have to be getting up at that crack of dawn to do a session. You've got a little bit more time in the day, but it's actually part of being a professional is that recovery aspect, and, you know, sitting on the sofa or lying on the bed and recovering. And I just have always struggled with that. I just can never do it. I don't know if that's because of coming from that background of doing it, you know, working corporate and training and just always being on the go. So now I tend to fill my time, you know, the spare time, I call it spare time. It's not really like, I just fill it with other projects and stuff. So when a lot of professional athletes are napping, and I think if you can do that, that's brilliant, and you are being professional and you're getting the most out of your body. I just mentally, physically can't do that, or don't prioritize the time to do that, because I just think there's other stuff that I want to do as well. So yeah, that one.
I completely get that, because like, I mean, now, like for me, so I was made redundant from my day job at like the start of COVID. And that's kind of when I took the leap to sort of go freelance on the design work, kind of progress with the podcast, and then very lucky to have some amazing sponsors that have supported me for, you know, several years now. And I sort of said to sponsors, I was like, look, I'm going to kind of give this a bit more of a serious crack and allow myself to train, basically do more hours, recover better, but then also still be doing a bit of freelance work, because that's fun to me, that's enjoyable. And it means that I can pick and choose the projects I want to do. But in a similar, before like my journey, like kind of before the job I was made redundant from, and before the job I had before that, which I was also made redundant from, both of them for, unfortunately, one was because of COVID and one was just the business was struggling, quite frankly. But before that, I worked in architecture, and in architecture, you don't get many hours sleep. No. And it doesn't matter. Like, I remember studying when I studied, and if you've got 4 hours sleep, you're doing pretty well. All-nighters was a regular thing. Yeah. And it became a regular thing in the job. And it sounds impressive when you talk to people, say, oh yeah, I used to work in architecture. Loads of people are always like, oh yeah, that sounds great. But they don't realize the actual hours that go into it, and not just for like the training, but you're building and designing things that can kill people. Like, really simply, building falls down, people die. So, yeah. And that's how my tutor used to say it to me. He's like, that's why there's so many hours go into it. But the big problem I had is I was working for an Australian company with a London office doing projects in Canada. And that...
Oh my God, time zones.
Yeah, you get it. You completely get it.
Yeah.
There was 2 hours of downtime a day.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's fun. Like, I remember, so the same, like at university, I did engineering. And so we were, you know, the engineering students were renowned for kind of like lots of lecture hours and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And there was regularly all-nighters doing project work and that sort of thing, which is probably standard with students. But I had a couple of friends who are architects or doing architecture, and they're like, the hours they were putting in as well was was crazy. And I think to some extent that does, that then carries over depending what industry and jobs you go into, corporate world. And I had a couple of years doing consultancy or management consultancy, and I was in Australia at the time. And at that point, we were working with, they just opened a London office. And I think the other thing that got me as well was like, as a younger single person in the business, you were the one that was expected to put the hours in to get what's the word? A pitch or a campaign or get a report written. Whereas everyone with family and had kids who they had to pick up from school, it was okay for them to leave at whatever time to pick their kids up because that's what they had to do. But for like the rest of us, it was like, well, hang on a minute, I've got a hobby. I want to go and ride my bike or go running, but that's not deemed acceptable. And we're the ones that are having to pull the all-nighters to go back to London. So I can only imagine like dealing with, Australia, being UK in the middle and Canada, those time zones are not great for, and so this is something like I've seen like the importance of sleep. And I was in the army, so we did some sleep deprivation stuff. Obviously, you doing sleep deprivation stuff with the rides and things like that. But when you put it into that context that you're making, and maybe normal corporate business decisions, accounting, or that kind of thing, it's not the end of the world if you make a mistake. Like, yes, you might lose money, but ultimately it's not really that big a deal. But like you said, when you are dealing with decisions or design that is life or death, or doctors, medical as well.
100%.
And that we don't give sleep the amount of respect it deserves to be able to make those decisions clearly. It can be scary at times, but we all do it. You all kind of get into that rut of that's either what's expected or it's the way you work, or you just get into that sort of spiral.
I would never say I was or am a great sleeper anyway. I'm a very light sleeper, so anything wakes me up. The moment it's sunrise, it wakes me up. Like I have this thing that like in our new house here, I've installed blackout blinds everywhere because it's like that's the best way to get sleep. The contrast is my partner loves waking up when the sun rises, so we have this like battle between having the window open because it's quite warm at the moment and the sun comes in at like 5 o'clock in the morning, or having the window freaking shut and it being pitch black. She's winning at the moment, which is fine. I think I was winning last week, so swings and roundabouts. But sleep is something that is incredibly underrated and undervalued, and it is so important to recovery. Like you hear people like athletes talking about getting your protein in, or even if it's not protein, getting a good meal in after a training session. That's my stance. I'd rather get a good meal in than have a protein shake personally. I just think it's nicer. Or stretching, relaxing, doing yoga, whatever it is, etc. But sleep is something that's always not talked about as much. And like there's all this chat about there being, like having 8 hours sleep, and it's proven, scientifically proven now. There's so much evidence out there how important it is. And also, I mean, I don't think this is proven, but I have this theory that you when you've had a bad night's sleep, that's hard to recover from. You can't you can't bank sleep or anything. You need it consistently, and consistency seems to be the key. So if you can only get like 6.5, 7 hours, if you consistently get 6.5, 7 hours, that's better than getting 3 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours, etc., etc. But there's so much more research going into it now, because I think people are starting to understand the importance of it. And that, as you say, that's something that's so important as a professional athlete. That is part of your job, is recovery. Quite frankly.
And the other thing I've found, I'm a bit like you. I've never been a good sleeper. Almost like I find that if I do have a few nights where I am getting more sleep, and I say like in that range maybe of 7 to 8 hours, I just actually end up waking every hour, and it's then I find it's like really disruptive, and then you wake up still feeling kind of shit and groggy. But the other thing for me, I'm pretty nomadic, and so I move around a lot. I don't have a permanent base or home, I'd say. And so a lot of time you're sleeping in beds that's like Airbnb, or it's a rented apartment. So it's not your mattress, it's not your pillow, and every country has different things. And I've actually just invested in a pillow that is meant to help you sleep better. So it's it's actually called Levertex, and it's kind of got that. It's quite thin, which kind of shocked me at first, because I obviously like normally have a couple of pillows and props you up sort of thing. And so I was like, gosh, I'm not going to like this. It's going to feel like I'm sleeping just on the mattress. But it's all about trying to get you to sleep in a position that is better for your body to recover, that you don't like. I've coming back from collarbone surgery and things like that. So I get quite a lot of aching in my collarbone. And so it's actually, and I must admit, I've only tried it, I think I'm on a week in, but, and it's early days, but it feels like I am less restless in the night and sleeping better. And hey, look, if that's a placebo effect,
it's fine.
Then it's kind of a bonus to start with. I mean, I think a lot of recovery tools in sport that you talk about, if there's some element of placebo around it that thinks you're recovering, then I think that's probably a good thing as well.
Yeah, I've done a similar thing with pillows, literally the last couple of weeks, and I think the company's called Eve, something like that.
Yeah.
And it's very much the same thing. It's quite a shallow pillow, but they're like a memory foam pillow, and they're designed to stop you like rolling around and stuff. So we always had one and sort of switched it between each of us. And now we've both got it. And like the other thing as well is like your body temperature, you want to be cool when you're sleeping. So you want to have a body temperature and everything. So the other thing we've done is invested in a summer duvet, and already had a wintry duvet, but got a really thin, like summery one, just to make sure we stay cooler at night. It's such a simple thing, but it definitely does help. Like I really do think the same thing. It might be placebo or not, but if it is placebo, fine. If I'm sleeping better, I don't mind. That's fine. It doesn't matter. But it's like one of these things that so many people, I just don't think value the importance of it really. And hopefully it will get better. Hopefully.
Yeah, I think athletes are starting to, like, you'll speak to most athletes and you say, what's your number one recovery tip? And most will say, or what's your number one performance enhancer kind of thing? And most will say sleep. To some extent. I think we're starting to see that now cross over into business a little bit more, and there's a lot more talk about it being like, it's not just performance in sport, it's performance in life, so to speak. And so it's it's being able to make those business decisions, because I know, I can tell when I get overtired through training and stuff, and I come and sit down at my laptop to do some work in between sessions, and I literally just stare at the laptop because my mental capacity is gone, because I'm fatigued, and that's just like physically fatigued, but just mentally I can't think to process stuff. And so if you take that into a business environment and you're trying to make critical or key decisions and stuff, if you are burning that candle because that's kind of what's been drilled into you about how to work and putting those hours in and stuff, but the decisions you're making will not be efficient or effective, and you're more likely to make mistakes. And I think that's what I kind of could look back now and see. It's just a harder struggle when you don't get that sleep, and I can see that. I mean, I still don't, or I'm not great at getting that, at breaking that to get that sleep. That's just bad habits of years and years. And so I understand it's not easy, but yeah, you do see, I also then notice a difference how like energy levels are more stable, emotions are more stable. You can make those decisions. You're not kind of hangry or aggressive or snappy at people because you're just, because you're not as tired and everything. And the other thing, like little things, like I have some great socks that my I wear for my cycling that my coach bought me, that says something along the lines of, I'm done with adulting for the day, and it doesn't look good tomorrow either. Because I just get to that point of going, I just can't make it. And it's a real simple decision. And that's the other thing, when you're tired, like little things just get blown up to be this huge thing. And then I like, right, I know I just need a good night's sleep. Get a good night's sleep. You come back to it the next day and you're like, there's not even a problem here. I'm not even sure why I was like working this up yesterday. It's just, this is what I need to do, ABC. So yeah.
There's like with ultra distance racing and rides and that sort of stuff, something that was always said to me, and I can't remember who said it to me. It was otherwise a guy called Rob Quirk or Matt Faulkner. It was one of those two guys. I can't remember which one. Both of them are legends, incredibly talented, like bike riders. Rob's a frame builder, has his own company called Quirk Cycles, legend. And Matt has like come, I think his best was second in Transcontinental, second or third in Transcontinental. Wow. Yeah. And like, so like two absolute heroes, and very genuinely lovely guys. And I'm sure it's one of them that said it to me, and it was never quit at night.
Yes.
What they meant by that was, if you're doing one of these races and you're having an absolute shitter and it's nighttime, because riding at night sucks. It doesn't matter what context it is. It sucks. I hate it. I really hate it. But if you're having a shit one, stop, get some sleep, reassess in the morning. That's simple. Yeah. And I think that is probably the biggest lesson that I've taken from anything I've done. And because it could be like, say, for example, like in Atlas Mountains, you end up riding for like 20 odd hours a day to go through the mountain ranges, because it's brutal riding. And you get to a point, I was getting to points at night, so it's like, I don't feel safe descending these mountain bike trails because I can't fucking see a thing. So I'm going to stop. I'm going to get a couple of hours sleep, wait until sunrise, go again. And that was very much my attitude on the coast to coast ride on the first attempt, because I was really shaken up after the incident. And I just said to the guys, or in fact, Andy, who was filming, was like, let's just stop, get some sleep, and we'll decide what to do in the morning. And we had a camper van, so it's pretty easy to do. All got in there, slept, woke up at sunrise, and I was just like, oh, maybe I'll ride to London. And then he was just like, but why? What's the point in riding to London? Let's just redo the whole thing. And I was like, yep, that makes complete sense. Because of where I was to London is not a good bit of road, just isn't. So yeah, it's like, I mean, I'm also someone that I'm interested in all these like sleep tracking things. Like I wear an Apple Watch, I've got a Whoop band on, but I also, for me, Whoop, as I think is very clever, it's very fucking expensive.
Yeah.
Ridiculously expensive for what it is. But for me, I can't use it all the time because it's addictive.
So I'm showing you, I used to wear one till about 2 weeks ago. And I was like, I need to take this off, because I was leading into a race, and I was like, I don't want to know what the data says that I've rested or not rested.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
I was finding that like I would wake up, and because I wasn't using it for training, so I wasn't using it to alter what my training sessions were that day. You know, that's all by my coach, that's separate. It was the sleep aspect I was kind of interested in, and it is interesting, but I find, you know, I'd wake up and I'm like, I feel great. I'm so excited. I'm going to check a Whoop. It's got to be like a green score today. And it'd be like less than 20% and red. And then you feel shit.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, whereas if I hadn't have seen that, I'd have still been like, I feel great for today. Yeah. And almost like conversely, like you have a shit night and then you look at your Whoop score and it's like a yellow, or it's higher than expected. And it should perk you up a little bit, but it still doesn't necessarily. So I was just like, I'm heading into a race, first race in however many years. I don't need to be judging myself or prejudging myself on whether I did or didn't. You know, let's just wake up, see how you feel, get on with the day and go from there. And it's kind of been a little bit like shackles off.
Completely agree. So I used it for the first time 2 years ago, before it was really popular. And like that. I used it when the first generation band came out, which is this is like when it was first started, and I used it because I was interested in it, and I'm always interested in these like technology things, hence buying a freaking 250 quid.
No, but it's
and I found that I was like getting similarly, just it was starting to dictate how I was feeling. So I won't, same thing, I won't really, I keep wearing it, but I just delete the app. I can't see the data, or I put the app in a folder somewhere which I'm going to go to. To be fair, that's normally what I do. But the reason what it's useful is that for me, is the data goes onto Training Peaks, which my coach can see, and he doesn't use it to dictate my training. It's a good, like, it's basically, especially for the long distance stuff, he can also see how buggered I am. And that's where it's interesting to see how long the recovery takes. But primarily, I started using it again this year, purely on the basis of like, just to keep myself in check. I think it's very good because I think you can learn a lot from it very quickly. And that's what I think it's useful, because it allows you to like understand your habits. Like for certain people, like if you like a glass of wine or whatever it is, you can see actually how that affects your sleep quite clearly. But I do think a lot of these trackers it's very easy to get obsessed with them. The only reason I wear an Apple Watch is because I bought one years ago. I think I think the Apple Fitness thing is shite. And I am actually getting rid of this very soon, because the only reason I like it is I think it looks kind of cool. You know, it's such a cool product. I'm getting rid of it because, and this list of like computer bike tech stuff that I bought, one of them is a fitness triathlon, I guess, watch, with the basis of wanting to test the battery life of one to be able to use it for things like recording races. So especially for like, so I went for the Garmin Phoenix 6 Pro Solar, really simple name, obviously. On the basis that it's
got the best battery life and
it recharges itself. Charges itself. So we'll see. We'll see how it is when it turns up. Costs a lot of money.
All these things.
All they always do. Ridiculously people. But it's going to be interesting to see how that works, especially for like some of the long distance riding, because I'm continually battling trying to find ways to charge stuff up, and it's tricky.
I was going to say that must be the hardest thing. I mean, I guess like you said, if you've got AA batteries and you can access those, like pretty much find them wherever in the world, but otherwise you're using like a dynamo or something on is that how you have to charge things on bike, or just? Yeah,
so I've just invested in a whole new dynamo setup, ironically. So it depends. It really depends on the kind of the challenge or the race. Like, so when I did Australia, I didn't ride a dynamo but carried 2 battery packs, because in Australia, because that was from Perth to Melbourne, basically. So in Australia, every night, I did it with my mate, every night we knew we were going to stop somewhere where we could charge stuff up. So it worked out quite well. The problem was we were doing at points like, I think the longest days were probably like 12 hours or so on a bike. And battery lives on bike computers don't generally last 12 hours, to be perfectly honest. Doesn't matter what one you buy. I've been using the Hammerhead. It's about 10 hours. The Wahoo Roam, maybe a little bit longer. What else have I tried? The Bolt, the battery life on the Bolt was pretty good. Now I'm going to try a Garmin, see what the battery life is like on that, because apparently it's 24 hours. We'll find out pretty quickly. So there's always this continual battle of trying to charge stuff. And one of the ways is, if you know your stopping places, battery packs, and it's easy to do. Problem is then having fucking cables coming out of every frame bag, whatever it is, that annoys the crap out of me anyway. But things like in Atlas Mountains, when I did Atlas Mountains, I rode a dynamo setup with a USE use exposure front light. I think it's called the Revo, and they've got like a rear light as well. And the light is fantastic, but they sort of sold it that you could charge from the light using this little cable. It didn't really work because you're not getting with dynamo, what you need is a continuous voltage that's steady at the same voltage to be able to charge that well. That's pretty impossible when you're cycling because you go faster, slower all the time. So anyway, I did a lot of research again, standard, and found this New Zealand company. It's a company called K-Lite, and the guy that runs it seems like an absolute legend. Like, he seems mental, and he basically 3D prints everything, and he's like a little bit hippie-esque, like it's all about sustainability, like in a really positive and good way. And his videos that he does talking about the products are amazing because he's so enthusiastic. Anyway, he's done this front light, which looks great, so I ordered one, and then a cache battery, which, so you've got the front light, your dynamo plugs into the front light, you've got this cache battery bit, which has and comes with a little switch on it. You put in your handlebars, and through the cache battery, you can basically plug in a rear light, plug in anything, charge it up USB, and it provides you with a consistent voltage. So it should charge. So what you then do is you have dynamo light, cache battery pack, another battery pack into that, so what you generally do is you'll always be charging up the battery pack, and then from the battery pack charging your other stuff. So it's basically like daisy chaining everything under the sun and hoping that it works. It's like, there's no like simple way around it, but it's something quite satisfying about powering yourself on a bike with a dynamo. And dynamo hubs, in my opinion, now are so good that I don't think it affects the resistance on the bike at all. If it does, it's like half a watt, if that. It's like, you're not going to feel it. You don't notice it. It just looks like a tennis ball, black tennis ball in your hub.
Okay, yeah.
And the other thing I liked about the K-Lite stuff is it's all plug and go. So you just plug everything in. All the cables are already soldered together. It's all done. And that's Kiwis are pretty good at like coming up with pretty simple, ingenious ideas, but a little bit different. Yeah, exactly. And I've not used it yet. It turned up last week, so I've got it all. I'm actually waiting for Dov from Parcours to sort out a 650B outer with a dynamo hub.
Yeah.
So, because I've got the
so it wasn't that massive wheel that he posted on Instagram. That's not coming for you then? You're not like
I'm trying to work out
upgrading your bike to something.
Yeah, I was trying to work out what that was for. Like, I was like, is it a penny farthing? Is it, or
well, that's what I was thinking at first. The only thing I think, and I don't think he's put an answer out there. I think it's a wheelchair.
That's what
like a racing chair, because but I was like, I don't think they have big. I think when I first looked at it, I was like, no, I'm pretty sure racing chairs have the same size wheels as a bike, a normal bike would. But actually, a friend just got an animation done of her in her racing chair, and the front wheel is actually the big wheel. So it's not the two at the back, but it's the front wheel at the front. On the bike segment. So for triathlon, it's the bike segment that's the bigger wheel. So I was like, oh, maybe it is then for
I'm looking at it now because the front one is a Strada wheel, the big one is a Strada wheel, and then there's a smaller one. And so I've got a friend who also, he's paralyzed from the waist down, and he has a racing wheelchair. So he's explaining to me that you have, for him, the hand bike is the equivalent of cycling, and the racing wheelchair is the equivalent of running. That's how he's explaining it to me. And his racing wheelchair,
it's the hand bike that has the big front wheel.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to look at the photos.
I think the racing wheelchairs, I don't think the front wheel is as big, but I think on the hand bike it is. Yeah,
so that's his racing wheelchair.
Yes, yeah. But if you looked at the hand, that's a small front wheel. Yeah. But if you looked at a hand bike,
it's the other way around, isn't it?
It's the other way around, and it's the front wheel that's the big wheel, like a lot bigger, which I hadn't realized. So that was the only thing. But I don't know, maybe we're completely wrong on that anyway. Maybe it is for a penny farthing-esque type ride.
Yeah, so his hand bike are the same. They're all 700C wheels.
Oh, you see, they're all the same. Okay, yeah.
So
Interesting.
we'll find out. I guess we'll find out. I'd love to know. I would really love to know. If you haven't seen it, go and check out. Shit, what is Dov's Instagram handle? Parcours.
Ride Parkour.
Ride Parcours, yeah, at Ride Parcours, and it's like 3 posts back. There's a big wheel.
See, and I'm trying to find the picture of the wheel. So there you go. And obviously this is great for podcast. So that that's where I saw, and I was like, her front wheel, Lauren's front wheel is the biggest wheel out of the 3.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
I guess
we should just speak to Dov. Come on, put us out of our misery.
I was talking to him this morning. We should literally just talk to him. Yeah, and so something I wanted to ask as well. How many hours do you reckon you train a week?
Oh, well, at the moment, it varies.
Obviously, it varies.
Yeah. And I don't normally track or log, but I'm building up to a race, and I was just happened to glance in Training Peaks, which is what my coach uses, at the number of hours last week and this week and next week, and I was like, actually that's reasonable amount. I'm like, no wonder I'm feeling a little bit kind of like overwhelmed and fatigued. I would say normally I'm probably around that 25 hours kind of thing. On average, I would say. But, a lot of times it probably sits around the 20 hours or so a week. At the moment, I think it's like 27, 28.
Wow, that's big weeks.
And also that's with having a really easy, like a really light day on a Monday. So just like literally one, which that was kind of what shocked me. Like just on a Monday, I'll have just an easy hour swim or just an easy bike, and that'll be the only session. So I was like, actually, so you're cramming it, not cramming, but then it's within 6 days that those hours are clocking up. But that's obviously swimming, cycling, running, and gym sessions as well.
Yeah, so, it's why. I mean, for me, like hours is obviously so important for a lot of the long distance stuff. It's just hours on the bike, but I probably do. I think I'm averaging 18 to 22 hour weeks roughly.
Yeah,
it does obviously completely vary, but yeah, I mean, I'm trying to look for a week of recent time where I can actually look at it more legitimately instead of kind of guessing. That one says 37 hours. I wonder why. I
don't think I've seen one of those.
yeah, I'd say it's between 18 and 22-ish. It very much varies, and that's just bike time. But a lot of my sessions, like my coach is very adamant that like long and steady is so good for you,
Yeah.
And it is. There's a lot of science. Same thing. There's a lot of science behind this kind of thing. Long, steady, like zone 2 rides are great for just building your aerobic fitness to just build the engine more, and then mixed up with some really spicy stuff. Normally something horrible at the weekend. Always does that.
Yeah.
And for a laugh. And similarly, I normally have Sunday or Monday off, depending on everything, in all honesty. And I think it's really important, what we've already talked about, rest and recovery, but having an easy day or a rest day, so important. And it just allows yourself to reset a bit and kind of absorb the hard work. And then for me, it's normally like 3 weeks building, rest week, 3 weeks building, rest week. And I think that's pretty standard anyway for most people.
Yeah. I mean, think of that. If you say like 18 to 20 odd hours, but that's just one sport. So that's a lot of cycling.
A lot of bike.
That's a lot of single discipline stuff. Whereas my hours are spread over 4, in theory, events. So when you look at it that way, it doesn't seem as, yes, the time training is there, but it's not I'm not like clocking up kilometers and kilometers as such.
What's the next race? Is this going to be your first one post-COVID?
So I raced a couple of weeks ago, and that was first one. So I last raced December 2019, I think. And then stress fractured so 2019 had been a bit mixed anyway. I'd raced at the beginning of the year down in Australia and New Zealand, and then came back to Europe.
Pretty well there as well.
Yeah, I had a good result in Australia. It was okay in New Zealand as well, but Australia was the better one. And then did my usual migration to the Northern Hemisphere into Europe. I'm in Girona in Spain. And then subsequently, like a week later, having had a bit of a rest, I broke my collarbone on the bike. And so had that plated, spent sort of then the next few months, obviously going through rehab of that, got to race again at the end of the year a little bit. So sort of September time through. And then, my last race was December 2019. And then started 2020 like we all did, not knowing, thinking everything was all good and happy days, and it was 2020. Stress fractured my collarbone.
Same one.
So I raced December 2019 and then had the plate taken out because we x-rays and it was fixed, and I didn't want the plate in long term, and that's what I was advised anyway. And then it stress fractured in February, and then just received a mix of advice, like saying, oh, you should it's not too bad, let it heal naturally. And you've just had, 2 surgeries, so we don't really want to sort of operate again. And like I said, it's not too bad. So, but then sort of 4 weeks later, went and had more scans and stuff, and actually found that it had further displaced, and so there was now like a 4 mil gap plus a 15 mil misalignment. So then had to have it replated, and that was as the world started kind of shutting down. So I think I was in America at that point. I think I got in for surgery on like the last day of non-essential surgeries before they shut things down. So then and then COVID happened, and no one was racing or doing anything but leaving the house anyway. But it took quite a long time for the shoulder to recover anyway, for various reasons. Not sure. No one's really given me an answer on why it was a lot longer than would be a traditional, I guess, collarbone fracture or stress fracture. And started to sort of getting back into things by the end of the year. I mean, like loads of people were saying, well, if you're going to pick a time to be injured, COVID's not too bad. But as well as an athlete, there's never a good time to be injured, regardless of what's going on.
Yeah.
But it was got back to sort of feeling like I could probably get to some races at the end of the year, and then was at an event again in December in Florida, and I wasn't racing, but I was working at the event, and I was then part of a charity relay team. And I'd just done the swim, and I was running from the swim to transition to tag my relay members, and I tore the fascia in my calf. So I was kind of like just getting back, and I decided not to do the full race in December, because I'd my collarbone's not, my swimming's not quite up to scratch, and it'll be a fast swim, so it needs to be good. But I'll go over and work, and I'll do this relay. So then tore the fascia in the calf, and again was told it was like a 4 to 6 week rehab. And I was like, okay, it's not ideal, but it's manageable. I've been through the last years, we can manage that. And that was kind of for a footballer to be back on the pitch playing at sort of that 6 to 8 weeks or whatever. So I was like, well, if a footballer's back on the pitch at 8 weeks, that's like sprinting, that's intensity and stuff. So anyway, we kind of get near to 8 weeks, and I'm still not being allowed to run. And anyway, then sort of get various different other advice, and it turns out, no, it's a 12 to 16 week injury was. And so that was a bit of a like kick in the teeth, because again, the same with the collarbone. The collarbone, they said if you leave it to heal naturally, it's 4 weeks. And I was like, okay, again, not ideal, but I can get my head around that. That's 4 weeks. And then like the 4 weeks came, and then you've got to have it plated because it's not healed.
Yeah.
And a bit the same, like get told the 6 to 8 weeks initially, and you go, okay, you get your head around that, and you're tracking the progress, you're doing everything right, you're doing all the rehab exercises, you're getting every treatment you can on it. But then you're like, well, how can I be running in a week when I'm meant to be back running in a week and, able to compete, and I can't, not being allowed to do anything. So that blew out to like 12 to 16 weeks. But long story round there, I raced at the end of May so that was the first race since that December 2019. And I'm now gearing up for a race on the 3rd of July, which is a full distance race. It's Ironman Lanzarote, which is going to be pretty horrific in Lanzarote in July. And I'm not
roasting, sure, isn't it?
Yeah. So the race normally happens in May, and then obviously with everything that's going on, it got postponed, and they postponed it to July. So it's apparently just even hotter, and the wind is even more brutal. So I'm not sure whether I call it racing Lanzarote. I think it's going to be a survival to get from the start to the finish line, and it's a little bit going to be every man for himself. I'm not sure how you physically race with, like, rather than just managing the conditions and managing yourself, but that is what we're now gearing up for. So long answer to get to that. Short answer, yes, I have a race coming up.
Yeah, it's such a weird one, isn't it? Because especially for you as someone who, as you've already said, is very much a nomad person, travels around a lot. Part of your job is traveling around a lot, being many different places in the world, and effectively having a massive door shut in your face and not being able to do that for, a year and a half, coming up for 2 years, really. And I think it has been incredibly tough for everyone. And, we have to think about the situation that, things are starting to get better. It's still not great. It's still not great, but things are getting better. And I think, I had to be honest, it's like one of the things that's actually upset me quite a lot recently is the amount of people, as soon as certain, like in the UK, certain countries, they've said, oh, it's on the green list. The amount of people have been like, oh, I have to go on holiday, I have to go away, and all this. I'm just like, you don't have to go away. You're choosing to go away, which is causing a risk to yourself. So many people.
It's interesting. It's like having a similar conversation with my sister. Even though, yes, I've been, I left New Zealand February 2019 for a 5-week training camp in the US, and I haven't been back since, sort of thing. But I have been able to travel a little bit more than most people through my job. And I'm very grateful for that. I was going to the US and stuff in February and March this year when, my sisters hadn't left their houses since November because the UK was in lockdown. And look, I get the feeling that people need to go and get away and do something because of the restrictions and how they've been living for the past year. But it's funny, it was an interesting conversation we had of going like that people feel it's a right to go on holiday. And when we were growing up as kids, it's like, I don't think we ever, since when was it a right to go on holiday? And so people are thinking they've got to go away, but then complaining about the additional cost that they have to have because they've got to have a COVID test to be able to have that right to go away on holiday, and how that's absurd that they have to now pay so much more for a COVID test. Well, if the COVID test price was built into the price of a flight and you didn't realize that, and they convinced you were getting a COVID test for free with your holiday, even though the price of the flights were extortionate or the hotel was extortionate, you'd still be paying to go on holiday, and you wouldn't think anything of it. You would pay the higher prices of that flight to get there.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, I dread to think how much I've spent in this last year on PCR, COVID tests and that sort of thing to be able to fly. And I know I'm very lucky and privileged that I've still been able to do that. But I can certainly say flying and traveling during a pandemic, or even, you know, the back end of it, is not as fun as it used to be, and the adventure it used to be. It is nerve-wracking, and the protocols, and you find you are like, you get to an airport and it freaks you out if there's loads of people around, or you're queuing up to get on a plane. And I mean, the one thing about traveling with a bike, which is quite handy, it gives you 2 meters of space. Like if you position it correctly in a queue, as well as the other bags I have, and you can make quite a statement about somebody to piss off further back than 2 meters, because they're sort of invading that space when people don't appreciate social distancing. But
I mean, as you say, it is part of your job, like fundamentally. Yeah. So, and I completely understand it when it is part of people's jobs. Yeah. I completely get it. That's the nature of the careers you're in. That's how you need to pay your bills at the end of the day. But to me, like as I said, like the choosing to go on holiday, and as you say, the right to go abroad, and like my stance there is like, the UK is freaking beautiful in the summer, especially. Like, go to
Cornwall, South Coast. Yeah, like, maybe not at the moment with the G7 summit. That's not as.
I wouldn't go to Cornwall right now because of all that. But
no, and actually, where my family, my grandparents used to live down there, literally in Carbis Bay, and so we now have sort of the apartment where they used to live that mum and dad go down to quite a few times a year, and the family go down and, you know, rent it out when we're not there. And so it's, you can see it in all the photos with all the summit. And I just think, oh, it used to be such a nice, quiet, it was like it got tourists, but St. Ives, which is the next bay round, that was where everyone kind of went. And then Carbis Bay was just like more local and really nice. And now I look at the picture and I'm like, oh heck.
Yeah.
It's
funny, isn't it? Like, did you see that Boris Johnson flew down to Cornwall?
I did.
For a climate summit.
Yes, I did see that. Was it somebody caught the train to a meeting, and Boris, which was like across the country and various other things, and then Boris flew to Cornwall, which, I mean, it's for a climate summit, and
I don't know what wasn't going through his head and thinking this is going to look bad.
Not even whether it's him, it's his advisors in the team as well. It's like, who thinks that's a good idea? Like,
yeah, exactly. You should have bloody cycled it. That would have been great. Imagine.
You know what? He was on a big campaign, wasn't he? During, I'm really regretting probably going down a political conversation, but you know, he came after he got sick, and then he announced the world announced the UK, yes, health and fitness is so important, and we need to take the stress off the NHS. So if we get to be a fitter, healthier nation, so everyone should ride bikes. And then, but actually we're going to shut down all grassroots sports for kids. Yeah. We're not going to open leisure centres. We'll open the pubs first because that's really healthy. Yeah. But no, you can't do sport. You can't do X, Y, and Z. You can't play. You can't go, like, look at Parkrun now.
I know.
Like, Parkrun was such an amazing community initiative, and how it grew over the last, it's probably longer than I think now. I'm going to say 5 years. I'm pretty sure it's longer than that. And now they can't even get it back up and running because of the different regulations. And it's just like, we just need to get people out moving. And I don't care what you can walk. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be good. Yeah. But it's walking, it's, you know, riding a bike or swimming. Like, open water swimming's taken off, obviously, because leisure centres weren't open. Like, so he should have ridden his bike down to Cornwall.
My partner was saying about the whole part wrong thing as well, because she is someone that used to do that. And as you say, there's such a community aspect to it, and how it, you know, anyone, doesn't matter your background or what it was, you could go and do it. So quite luckily, where I live, there is a running club that allows people, you can sign up to it, you get a timing chip, and on a Saturday morning, I think it's like 9 o'clock, they do I don't know if it's 5 or 10K, but they do it around the park, and anyone can do it. There's different distances for different like age groups. Like, kids can do like 2K or something like that, or K, whatever it is, all the way up to like 10K distances all around the park. People go and cheer and support it, and they've managed to make it work somehow during everything, which is fantastic. But, you know, the stuff, parkrun was such a great success for getting people outdoors and getting them running, and so easy and so accessible. Like, the thing about running is, I'm shit at running, and for me it's because I had a really bad injury when I used to play rugby, and it's affected how I can run, which is basically why I started cycling. But for me, like, when I think of sports, running is the sport that you need the least to do it, really. You don't need a lot of stuff. I mean, obviously you can buy more expensive kit, but you can do it really cheaply.
Very minimal. And you can do it anywhere. So, you know, again, when I was working in the corporate world and like still trying to, and doing triathlon as a hobby, and yes, when I had some placements which were several weeks long, I would try and take my bike if they were kind of overseas or whatever. But ultimately, if you're in a hotel or an apartment or whatever with work, or you're on a work trip, or all you need to take is a pair of trainers to go running. And it's also the best way to see a city or a location. Like, don't get, just running around a city, you actually appreciate. It's the same when I go to London. I mean, as much as I love the tube, and that maybe that's changed a little bit now. I don't know if I get back there, but if you walk from place to place in London, you actually realize how close everything actually is.
100%.
But because you go on the underground, you just you go down, you get on a tube, you pop up another station. And actually, if you'd have walked around the corner, you'd know that Trafalgar Square isn't actually that far from Piccadilly. I'm going to remake it up now, but from Piccadilly Circus to like one of the parks. And actually, you get to appreciate and understand a lot more when and it's the same, like, put a pair of trainers in your bag. Doesn't need to be fast, but, you know, go and see the world in a different way and be healthy and active. And I think that's one of the reasons like parkrun was so successful, because they just broke it down into real simple, come to the park, you know, you can get a time, but it's not the be all or end all sort of thing. But it's going to be 5K every week. It's just a group of people wanting to run. You can walk, you can run, you can bring your dog. You now got junior park run. We don't care how fast or slow you are. I remember there was an article, I think, that a journalist wrote about how he cheated at parkrun, and how like he was like exposing it as this big thing, and how parkrun it's rubbish because you can cheat and all of that. And I think the CEO of parkrun just replied going, if you want to cheat, I really don't care, kind of thing. It's not about whether you're getting a time, or it's not about whether you want to cheat or not. It's just like, if you want to do that, do that. But most people just want to come out and join a group and run or walk or whatever.
It's quite nice, because there is the ability to have that competitive aspect, but it's not the be all and end all of it, which is what appeals to so many people about it. And especially like now, I think like you've got that competitive, you've got the timing aspect, and they do, you know, if you want to go into it again, it's like, how much data do you want? You can look at where you rank in your age group around the country. And, you know, I think every park run is different. Like the one I do at home, we're pretty much running on a field for most of it, whereas some park runs are on like a road or a track. So there's all that. And is it hilly or flat? But I think the other thing, like the part when you get recognized for how many you do. So, you know, there's a t-shirt or something for when you've done 10 or 50, or have you done every one around the country? And there's different sort of respect and accolades for that. I remember as well, like the first time I did park run, we did it like there was 3 generations of my family all doing it for the first time. So my mum started running when she was like 71, 72. Amazing.
So she did her first, I know, just blown away. She did her first park run. I was doing my first park run. And then my niece came and did it with us as well. And that was a real buzz. And it didn't matter. And then, but there was another thing. There was a lady there that was trying to get fit and lose weight. So she was out there doing it, and she would walk it, and that was totally fine. But every week she would run a little bit further, and then she'd walk the rest. And then the next week she'd run a little bit further again, and then walk the rest. And she was on, and she'd been doing this for, I don't know how many weeks, but a lot of respect and time. And I think that's kind of what's quite nice about it as well. There's different ways you can be competitive, and that's great, but you don't need to be. and it's more about like personal goals and being that supportive nature as well. And then like Christmas is always, or or different occasions, and everyone comes in fancy dress and stuff like that. It's always fun.
Yeah, it's like I was trying to like think of what on cycling, what has a similar kind of aspect to it, and the only thing I could think of was time trials.
Yeah, I was just thinking that as you said that.
And because and why I mean the thing with time trial is the problem with time trials is that it is a bit of an old man's club, and I think a lot of that comes from the fact that CTT, so the governing body of time trialing in the UK, which is different from British cycling. If anyone international didn't realize that, we have two different bodies, one for time trialing, one for road cycling. Although you do also have time trialing in the British cycling side of it, which is it's confusing as hell. But CTT, which generally manages and organizes all the time trialing side of it, is just very old. It's all very old, very old fashioned. You can pay for like race entry with checks and stuff, for example. Like it's just, the website's terrible. But to me, I always like think of like a club TT. It's normally like, you don't have to be a member of the club to do it. You could just turn up and do it. And before COVID, it was like, you go to a club TT, you pay like £2, you get a shit tea or a shit coffee and a bit of cake at the end of the TT in a village hall. That's always what it was. Shit tea and coffee, bit of cake, maybe a little glass of Coke or something in a little plastic cup that squeezes very, very easily. And no one gives a crap about anyone else's time, because time trialists are selfish people. I'm a time trialist, so I know it. We don't care. We just want to know what our time is. We don't care about anyone else's. But you obviously you can see it. It used to be that all the times are written out on a board, and you'd be able to see everyone's time. You're literally looking for your own time, and you can do it on any bike. It doesn't have to be a TT bike. You can go on a Brompton. You can go on a road bike. You can go on a BMX. No one really cares. I've done a TT on a BMX before. It was great fun.
We have. I think you're right. Like, I think TT has that element. We have when I'm in New Zealand through summer, Tuesday night, they have a TT every Tuesday, and it's 16 kilometers, or the kids can do 8 kilometers, out and back on a road. It's open roads, but it's kind of closed. Everyone, there's signs up and stuff. You rock up, you sign on to the sheet, whatever time you kind of is, first come, first serve as start time. You get your number, you put it on, off you go, you come back and go home, or go home, or you have like, they'll have sweets and stuff, or, at the end of the year, you have a barbecue at the end of it, and it's super, but whilst you're there, it's so friendly and stuff. And you'll get, some people will be fully kitted out with like the disc and the aero suit and the helmet, and they'll be like, not overly serious, but taking it a little bit more, because again, they might be testing stuff, or they're doing it for their own time. Or like I'd rock up normally like at the end of a training day and have to run off the bike as well, so I'd just be like with my training kit on and like no aero, and it was fine. Or you'd get there was, I think, a guy would do it on a tricycle, or the kids would do it going around with mum or dad. Or then we also used to do like you'd get a few tandems there as well.
That's cool.
And then every so often they'd do like a hill climb version, so you'd go to one of the Port Hills in Christchurch, and you'd time trial up the hill. Or I think twice a year or once a year they'd do a 2-up event.
Good fun.
Which I'd never, like, the first time I did that was so much fun, but I was doing it with a guy and he was on a fixie.
Oh man.
So he was on a fixed speed, I was on my TT, having never ridden, like literally rotating or on the wheel with anyone in a time trial. And so it was just, he was like, once I get up to speed, we're good, but just don't go hell for leather off the line, because you're going to leave me before we get there. But that was super fun. And they're just, different. There was a real, it's that similar. There was a real good community vibe around it. And at the end of the day, or after it's, they write all the name, you call your number as you go across the line, if you can speak by that stage. And they write all the times up on a sheet of paper, and you either hang around and that's all, again, it's like looking down, where's my name, where's my time, or they would post them out on Facebook later that evening. So you go down to see where you are, and it more just like there's that comparison of, oh yeah, well I was a little bit further up last week, or they were in front of me, but this is the time, and and the conditions change every week anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what I quite like about TTs is, I mean, I think if you looked at it externally and you saw the whole stuff with in the UK with CTT and the serious kit and all that, it can be quite intimidating. But I think if you have a club that's local to you, or you're a member of a club and you know that they organize a club time trial, which a lot of clubs do. I know where I live, I think there's probably like 3 or 4 clubs. There's a TT pretty much every night if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Not that I'm going to do one every night because it's just madness, but the ability is there, and you can just rock up, and it's always really welcoming. And I used to, when I lived in London, I always used to do this one, which was in like Sevenoaks way. So I used to ride out to Sevenoaks on my TT bike, normal helmet. I'd have like disc wheel and race wheels on. I'd ride out, which is like an hour or so, hour to an hour and a half, do the TT, ride back home. And I was like, that's a great day out. Like after work, do that. And it's just like there is like a very much, especially in the club ones I found, it's just all a little bit more chilled out and a little bit more relaxed than the ones that are like the best British all-rounder ones, the B-bar ones, which are on CTT. They're a bit more serious, but that's because it's for a championship across the whole of the year. So it's understandable they're a bit more serious. But you go and do these TTs, and they're always organised by a club. Doesn't matter where they are in the
and
UK.
it's like a fundraiser, isn't it? So it's like you're quite happy to chuck in some money for the entry or for your tea and your cake at the end of it to kind of help support them. Yeah,
exactly. And it does feel kind of good supporting the local clubs. And the last one I did, I haven't done a dry TT this year, which is kind of why I'm racing tonight, because I'd like to do a dry one. And it's a bit overcast, but I think it's going to be dry. And I'm mainly using it as an opportunity to test out some new gear that I've got. That's part of the reason why I'm doing it. But the last one I did, it was a horrible weather, but Sarah Story was there. So you had Sarah Story lining up, Paralympic world champion, won pretty much everything going in swimming and cycling. Let's be honest, she's an absolute legend. And then she brought like some of the like development riders in Story Racing along. You had a woman who races for Drops there. You had a guy that raced for Sam Piran there, and then you had these. And then equally, there was like an old guy that I went past. I spoke to him afterwards. He was like 81.
Yeah, I know.
And he was just on this like an old Cervélo. I think it's an old I don't even know what it was. It was an old Cervélo of some way, shape, or form with like old Campag group set on it, like
classic
10 speed or 9 speed even, like proper old school, old Cervélo, old group set, everything like that. And he's like 81 and absolutely smashing it, having a great time. And then equally, same race, there's a kid doing it who was, because I was talking to his dad afterwards, I think he was like 15, which was the lowest they would allow you to do it, the youngest they'd allow it at that particular one. And the reason why they allowed him to do it was because his dad rode the whole thing with him, behind him.
Yes.
And it was just really nice to see. And this particular TT was one where you saw people going, obviously it's out and back, so you'd see people. So I remember I was looking, I was like, why is this guy following this kid? And then I spoke to him at the end, and I was like, makes complete sense now. Yeah. And that's just a local club that's organised that TT. Same thing, you pay your entry fee. Unfortunately now there's not really that sort of waiting around and like hanging around and taking coffee or tea at the end, which is a shame, but you're supporting a local club. It's great. It's really, really good.
And that's what we'd have like in New Zealand. You'd get like the young kids that might be up and coming development riders, and then you'd get some of the New Zealand Pro Tour, like the riders who are on the Pro Tour, like coming in their off season and rocking up, and you're like, all right, and everyone in between, like you'd have like the older guys that just come along and happy days, get on and pedal on. That my first ever TT was the Australian National Time Trial Championships. A little bit of a baptism of fire. I was doing triathlon, and an ex-pro cyclist, now coach, kind of went, oh, I think you'd go pretty well in a TT kind of thing, and like maybe you should consider doing it. And I was like, okay. I was like, as long as like we do this properly then, and someone can teach me about, because yes, we are on time trial bikes in triathlon, but it's a very different, it's very different. It's a different sport kind of thing.
Completely.
And so that, and you can definitely get better at pure time trialing by doing it more, learning the roads, getting that position dialed in, and making sure there's the blood in your throat within the first 100 meters of the start. That's what my coach always said. If you're not tasting blood within like the first 100 meters, you didn't go hard enough at the start, and then hanging on for the rest.
Yeah.
But I remember, I went to this, I mean, I thought we were I had no idea about time trialing or really road cycling at that stage. I just did triathlon, and I was very much still amateur at those days. But I'd been doing a little bit more cycling and that sort of thing. But we rock up to the Australian National Time Trial Champs, which I think was Ballarat or wherever it is that it's held. Yeah. And Phil Liggett's there, so I'm like, oh my god, it's Phil Liggett kind of thing. Massive fan.
Yeah.
And then everybody there, because you've got all like the pro cycling females, obviously, because that's the race I was in, and they're all warming up on their wind trainers, their turbo trainers, and all that. I go for a run because I'm a triathlete, and nobody's told me what to do to like do this event properly. Amazing. And it was just so comical. I was like, should I go for a swim as well first? Maybe that's going to help me. It wasn't. I mean, it was funny. It wasn't a complete disaster, but I did regret we could have done things. I think I got some bad advice and coaching going into that. We could have done things a lot better, and I could have had a bit better of the day. Definitely would have. I'm not saying I definitely would have won. Those girls are legit fast, but it was very funny. Like going, oh yeah, I'm just gonna go for a run to warm up, and everyone else is on their turbo trainers.
I can't. You're completely right when you say it's a very different type of sport as well. Like comparing a triathlon or a long distance steady state riding, which is, the bike leg on a triathlon, or what I the similarities I have with that is like, national 100, national 12-hour, national 24-hour, the long steady state efforts on a bike at a certain wattage. Yeah. You go and do a 10-mile, 25-mile, or even a 50-mile TT, and it is like carnage coming out your ears. I'm shit at 10-mile TTs. I'm pretty, to be honest, anything under the 100-mile rate, like TTs, crap at them. Like, I'll be competitive, but it's a different kettle of fish. Like, it's basically a 10-mile TT is a sprint and then hold on for as long as you can. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And a 25-mile is exactly the same tactic. Yeah. Sprint it until you can't hold on anymore. They just blow up spectacularly. Yeah. But it's it's still, what I like about the 10 is it's, whether you do it in sub 20 minutes or you do it in half an hour, 45 minutes, you're still offering, you're testing yourself within your limits over that set time, which is great. It's fantastic. Anyway, one thing I wanted to mention is that you have got a really beautiful looking bike.
Yes, thank you.
The paint job is awesome on your Factor. It's really, really slick. Ironic. I just realised what I said then. Oh my god!
No pun intended. I do it all the time.
No pun intended there. It is very slick. It looks great. And if you haven't seen that, make sure you head over to Laura's website, social media, all that kind of stuff, because it's cool. It looks great. As being blunt about it. And I've seen that you've also been doing a bit of gravel stuff recently, which also is close to my heart because I think it is the funnest form of cycling right now, hands down. Because you're just in the UK anyway, you're separated from traffic, and it's just fun. It is quite literally just fun. That's it.
Oh, it's been amazing. Here in Girona, the gravel's as everywhere in the world, but it's really taken off. I mean, the funny thing is there's so many cyclists in Girona, but you actually go out on a ride and you don't see anybody because there's so many options of where you can go. But now it's had another level because everyone's almost, they're not even on the roads now. They're just in the woods, in the gravel riding. And there's so many trails, and I've really enjoyed using it as something completely different. One, I think like from a handling perspective and skills perspective, I think it can be quite useful and stuff. And two, like I'm not saying it's easy, because you can have really hard rides, and I've seen like some of the events they have here in Girona. They did like a 360 gravel ride event the other week and all that sort of stuff. But I like it for me, it's kind of a good switch off recovery kind of day, and go and explore and do some different loops. And like you said, you're away from the roads, you're away from people, you actually see the countryside in a totally different, or see where you live in a totally different light.
Yeah, massively so.
And also it's social. Well, I mean, I enjoy doing it on my own, but it can be social as well, because when I'm on my TT bike training, not many people want to come and ride like with you or do a session. Whereas a lot of my friends here in Girona, they'll have gravel bikes. So it's like, right, we can all go for a gravel ride. We can all do that. Yeah. And especially if it's one that goes out to the Dos Kiwis brewery, and then you can sit and have a beer and some food, it's even better.
Yeah, I've been going to Girona on and off for quite a few years now, but I obviously haven't been back since.
Yeah.
When was the last time I was there? It would probably be spring 2019, maybe. I can't remember, or maybe even winter 2018. I've not been there for a long time, but I've never taken a gravel bike out there. So that the next time,
definitely, yes.
So when I can, next thing I'm going to do is just take my gravel bike out there, and because I have no issues riding a gravel bike on the road. They think they're much slower, in all honesty. If anything, it's just a little bit more comfortable because you've got big fat tires on.
Exactly. Yeah. And you'd love it out here. Yeah, you definitely try and get back out here. And with your gravel bike, and it's been really good. Like obviously everything was limited. Actually that was one of the benefits as well, because when we were on certain restrictions where as a professional it was a little bit different, but generally you weren't allowed to leave at some points like the town region. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but where we are, which on a road bike meant that you were kind of doing hill repeats up Ells Angels, because that was kind of as far as the limit went, which is it's fine, but it's that's what it is. Yeah. But if you had a gravel bike and the same trail running, you had 3 hours you could lose yourself for 3-4 hours and you hadn't left like the town region or limits. So it was kind of really cool for that side of things. But then there's a company here, Classmark, who have started, they've been putting on events obviously for ages, but they've started being able to bring them back. And they run like awesome like weekends of gravel events, and you can do that. I did the 60K, which I equivalent or made it was like doing an Enticer triathlon, I think. An Enticer triathlon is like for the beginners. It's very short swim, it's a very short bike, it's a very short run. But really all the big kids are doing like the Olympic distance or the half distance. Yeah. So I did the 60K tracker, which was like my Enticer, and then they had like 100K and a 200K, and then they do trail running, and then they did, like I said, they did like a 361, and just exploring the huge region that you have in here for riding.
Yeah, I'm very, very jealous. Let's just put it as simple as that.
Yeah. Get yourself out here. You can get to Spain now, can't you? Like there's no restrictions getting here.
Yeah.
Just a few restrictions still getting back.
I know I've got the Peak District on my boundary, on my doorstep.
That's true now. Yeah.
It's quite the same, I mean, as I sort of perceive that realistically, I've kind of, to be perfectly honest with you, for what I do, I've kind of written off this year again. Because I don't think that a lot of the long distance races have just been cancelled, and I completely get it. Transcontinental got cancelled. The Transcontinental, the people that organise that also organise the Trans Pyrenees, which was one of my races I was targeting last year, let alone this year. It was cancelled last year, very, very early on. It was cancelled in I don't know, like March, April maybe. They just sort of straight up went, we're going to cancel it because it's so much time to invest in and financial investment to make these things happen. they've so it was all
it's on again this year though, in a couple of weeks or months, isn't it?
There's two Trans-Pyrenees. There's one which is organised by the people that organise Badlands.
Okay.
And
yeah.
that one I think is coming. I think that one's still happening, and I'm down to race Badlands, but not their Trans-Pyrenees. And then the Trans-Pyrenees, which is so the one that they organise, their Trans-Pyrenees is basically west to east.
Got you.
And then there's the Trans-Pyrenees, which is organised by the Transcontinental, which is west to east and then back to west. So I was down to do that one last year, and that's been rescheduled this year to October, but they've been delaying literally 3 times now the final payment for the entry fees. So not certain it's going to happen. The only two, to be fair, the only 2 international races that I would have had this year is Trans-Pyrenees and Badlands. One's in September, one's in October. So we'll see. It might be feasible then, but I'm not like holding out hope that it is. But equally, if it doesn't happen, if it does happen, great. If it doesn't, it's fine. But because I think, like, for me, I've just kind of thought, like, I'm not really, I kind of just do a lot of this stuff for the fun of it, to be perfectly honest. Like, and I can still do other things as opposed to going to these races. There's still a lot of stuff I can do in the UK. So while things are a bit uncertain and unstable, my mindset for what I do is just like, well, I can figure things out here. It's okay. There's still plenty of good riding, especially on like the adventure side of things. There's plenty of things you can do in the UK for the time being. But the moment that I can travel like comfortably, there's a lot of Spain that I need to ride in, and a lot of France and a lot of Italy that I haven't explored. And kind of since I got made redundant, the big thing for me was opening up that opportunity to
and then everything but then the reasons of that was like that everything was shutting down, isn't it? Like, just
swings and roundabouts, like it'll come back.
I think it's going to come back, and I think when it does, there's going to be such an explosion of that, like whether it's doing the races or just people getting out traveling. I think we've seen a surge in people riding bikes and, like I said, open water swimming, or people getting out and running. And I think I'd like to think that translates into people going and exploring some of the amazing places. It's been, like, again, a positive I think that's come out of the last year and stuff is that, like you said, you start to see a different side to the UK that you didn't get to see before. And the same, like, you ride around Spain or whatever, and you just appreciate actually being able to be out and about. And because it's pretty quiet and there aren't tourists here at the moment, you actually see different things. And that's the same, like, you get it on your gravel bike and you just see the world in a totally different place or different light. And almost like be more open to like smelling stuff and hearing the birds and whatever else it is. That's actually been really cool. And I'd like to think, like, there's so many places to see, to ride, to explore on bike. I mean, I've got friends that have done the transcontinental as well, and I've like my eyes were open to a whole world of dot watching and getting addicted to watching like this. Where are they today? Why hasn't it moved? What's going on? And I think it's amazing. And just that whole going back to like that sleep thing, but like how you just manage that time, but the adventures you can have is pretty cool.
I think one of my plans, as soon as like travel opens up a bit more, so I've got my second COVID vaccine booked for middle of August. So hopefully, basically what they're saying for like transcontinental and stuff and Trans-Pyrenees is like they're pretty adamant you're going to need to have both vaccines, which is fine. One of the things when things start to like open up that I really would love to do is to ride from mine to Girona. Like, I just think it'd be awesome. Not like put any massive pressure on myself to do it in a certain time. Just go and explore and enjoy it. Like,
and if you wanted to stay longer because you do a detour around somewhere to see something or
exactly,
some castle, you can do that.
Just enjoy the opportunity and actually you know, as you say, like hopefully because more people have started riding and trail running, whatever it is, it's opening people will continue to want to explore and see things a bit different. That's the hope, definitely.
Yeah.
I realize that we've been talking for a very long time, and which is fine by me. I could talk for England, but I gave you a bit of a pre-warning.
Gosh, I know.
I did about 5 top tips. So this is something that whenever I don't do it, I get told off for not doing it. So I have to do it.
Then.
Yeah, but there's been everything and anything under the sun in the tips, from cooking tips, cycling tips, nutrition tips, like really like deep, like meaningful tips. There's been everything. One of Parcours Dov gave a tip which I use all the time now, and it was literally put all your herbs and spices in a pan with a bit of oil when you start cooking. That was it.
Okay.
And like, because it opens up all the aromas into the oil, and it will make your food taste better. And since you told me that, I've done that. That's what I do when I cook.
Fair enough. So it's funny though, because when you gave me this, and I was like, I just was struggling to think of anything that was like groundbreaking or shattering that people would be like, oh yeah, that's really clever. Because everything I do, I'm like, doesn't everyone do that? It's nothing like new. I did have one, like my one, which related to cooking. Life hack is find a partner who can cook. Because that was and who likes cooking, because that's where I struggle, because it's just me, and I don't mind cooking, but I just don't give it the brain space or capacity, or have the capacity to spend much time on it. So I was like, actually find someone who you can live with that is a good cook.
See, I love cooking, and I spend hours, like I will spend hours doing a meal. And my current favorite, and for me, like it's really enjoyable, but equally, if I've been training, I don't want to do it because I'm fucking knackered, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
And that's where it is. I completely agree with you. But my current favorite cookbook is by a guy called Ottolenghi.
Okay.
I can't remember the name of the cookbook, but it's the cover of it is like an onion cut in half, but it's like an illustration, and all of the layers of the onions are different colors. It's best cookbook. It's like Mediterranean, kind of Turkish, sort of North African vibes. Amazing food.
You see, that's the thing. I love that. Like, I love getting a cookbook, and like I have cookbooks. I've got a couple that are like, again, sort of athlete focused and stuff like that, or like chefs and stuff that I like. But it's more like I like that ideal that I'm gonna be like some amazing person in the kitchen and have like, well, we can't do it anyway now, but invite everyone out for dinner and stuff. But then I'm so like, it would take me like 3 days to plan for that, and I'd have to write it all day. And then, like you said, on a normal training day to day, I am so rubbish by the end of the day. It's just like, what's quick and easy? Oh, it's the same thing I had yesterday. Yep, that's fine. We'll just do that again.
Yeah, there's a miso gnocchi, and the recipe, like it does talk you how to make gnocchi, but it also says, isn't it, like just go and buy gnocchi from the shop. It's equally good. It's like, it's fine. And I think the preparation time on that is 15 minutes. So
okay, yeah. See, that's what I need. Yeah,
it's like super quick, super easy, and it's like all that salty umami goodness, and very good. Rate it. Anyway, sorry. That's one. We've got one done.
That's one. All right, another one then, which is slightly still on a food theme. Which again, I actually was like Googling last night, going life hacks. What can I do? And I found this one. I was like, this is actually relevant to me though, because I eat a lot of smoothies and blenders, and then like washing the blender. Either if I'm lazy, I put it in the dishwasher, which I'm not sure is the best idea. Yeah. But I read like to wash the blender, you should put the dishwashing soap and water into the blender and then stick it back on the machine and turn the machine on. So that's how you can kind of get all the bits from out the edge, and obviously just make sure you rinse it afterwards so you don't get that soapy smell. But I thought that was quite a good one that I'm going to use now from now on.
I do that, or I don't have a blender anymore, but I used to do that when I had a blender because it just actually was just really easy to clean it. It's just so much better.
Yeah, and I hadn't thought. I was like, oh, actually, that's a useful one. That's quite relevant. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Okay, we've done 2.
All right, another slightly food, or well, this is more again, and this is one that I'm like, I'm sure people do this already, but if I've had fruit, I can't throw any food away. I was very much brought up, if it's on the plate, it gets eaten. Things go out of date, you just eat them, it's fine. I'm still alive today. Although when I was sidetracked, when I was preparing for my last race and I was going through my race nutrition, I did find a gel that said it was expired March 2015. I decided that might be pushing it slightly. I'm sure with the amount of sugar it's got in, it would be fine, but I think it might not taste great. And it might have been. Anyway, so we missed that one. But on a fruit perspective, I find that if the fruit's gone past where you perhaps don't want to eat it per se, but if you chop it up and put it in the freezer, it's brilliant for ice cubes.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
So either then in your water, like, so in a water bottle, especially when it's getting near summer, I might put like a frozen couple of slices of lemon in. So then it chills, but it also adds that little bit of flavor when you're riding with the lemon. I'm actually lying when I say that because I actually do it for gin and tonics. So the fruit, I'd like to think, I do it for drinking as well on the bike with the lemon, but like in my freezer I've got kind of like grapefruit, lime and lemon that was probably going off, but I've just saved it quick enough before, sliced it up, put it in the freezer, and then it's a good ice cube bit of flavor to your drinks.
That's a really good shout. That's a really good shout. I've got similar mentality about I hate wasting food, and to the point that I will just eat if I think it's on the cusp,
I'll just eat it.
I'll just eat it. Had some I really like sweet corn. But like corn on the cob, I love it. And I don't buy it often, and it's like a real nostalgic thing because I used to have it as a kid all the time. Had some in the fridge, and ate most of it, and then there was one left, and it was definitely gone by its sell-by date. I give it the smell test. Smells all right. Cook it, eat it, done. Yeah,
I know. It's the same. Like if either food going off or if I'm going away for a few days, but I've got all this food in like the fridge still, and then I'm going to have to throw it away or it's going to go off. I'm just like, no, I'll just eat it all tonight. Yeah. You don't need to eat 3 meals tonight, but you're going to because you'd prefer to do that than throwing it away or anything else.
The other one that I always get is bread. Like, I love fresh bread, but if it goes stale, it obviously is a bit shit. So what I'll do is slice up the loaf, put it in the freezer, take it out in the toaster. It's perfect.
My bread lives in the freezer. I'm a bit the same. Like, I just can't. I don't want to go through it. If I have a fresh loaf out, I'll eat it in like that day when it's still like lovely and fresh and tastes amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Nice. We've done 3. You seem to be doing it a lot better than you thought.
Done 3. All right. So this one is one I found out recently, and it does work. So this is a triathlon focused one for swimming. So when race morning or any morning when you go swimming, you try and put on your wetsuit. So for years, I thought I had a hack that to save yourself time in the morning, make sure the night before when you're prepping all your race kit that you've turned your wetsuit the right way round.
Yeah.
So that in the morning, you're just putting it on. And you're not having to faff with like turning it in, from turning it inside out to the right way, because in the morning it's stressful anyway. However, I found out recently when I was with the team from De Boer Wetsuits that actually the best way to put your wetsuit on is to start with it inside out.
Okay.
And then as you put your feet in, you kind of roll it the right way over your body.
I get you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And actually it comes on a lot easier and it fits a lot better because it sort of rolls into place rather than you having to sort of hoik it up with wetsuits.
Yeah, that makes sense. Does make sense.
And also it helps as well because obviously wetsuits can be a bit fragile with fingernails and stuff like that. But actually if it's inside out and you're rolling it on, you're actually only kind of in contact with the inside of the suit, which is a bit more durable. So that was one I found out recently, and I did try it, and it definitely works. So that's for the triathletes or the swim. If I say open water swimmers, probably wearing a wetsuit for an open water swimmer is the devil, isn't it? Probably they can tend to kind of go in just in their swimmers in the freezing.
Yeah. That's a very useful tip. That one. That's a very useful tip.
Yeah. And then my last one, which again, I'm pretty sure everybody does this, and I'm not the first person to discover this, but this is more cycling related. And a bike coach I used to have did this. So if you've got electrical, like if you're taping anything to your bike with electrical tape, which I know some people probably think is again heinous and don't want anything to do with, but like for me in a race, like taping the spares or a bottle cage in so that you just don't lose it over a bump.
Yeah.
So you tape it on with electrical tape, but then make sure you fold the corner of the electrical tape over so that to get it off in a hurry, it's easy to find the end.
Yeah.
A little bit the same like sellotape or whatever in your house, like trying to find the end. So for us, like in a race, I know that if I've turned like this corner where the end of the electrical tape comes, you just fold the corner over, and so you can easily sort of grab it to rip it off if need be.
It's one of those things that makes complete sense, but a lot of people wouldn't actually do. I wouldn't think to do that. I'd be like, nah, just stick it down. Yeah, but it makes complete sense. Yeah, that's a good one as well. I think the sticking stuff on a bike with electrical tape. Personally, I think, do what you want. Yeah, it's like when you see a lot of people who stick all the gels on their top tube with electrical tape, and they stick it so that it's the bit that
you stick it over the. Yeah, that's how I started doing mine in triathlon. So you can
rip it and have it straight away.
Yeah, you've got all of them like fan-tailed out along the top tube, and you put the electrical, spend hours putting the electrical tape over the, I don't know what you call it for a gel, but over the lid. It's not a lid, but so that when you can just rip it off and that state and it's automatically open. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes complete sense. Amazing. Thank you for your, I think, very good tips. And thank you so much for chatting shit with me for, coming up to 2 hours, I think.
Best form, loved it. It was nice just to be, just to chat.
Yeah, that's what it's always been about with the podcast is informal chats. I can't even speak now. Informal chats that kind of go nowhere. That's kind of what it's always been for me. And and somehow people seem to enjoy that, which I'm quite happy about. 52 episodes now. Can't complain.
Can't be doing too badly.
No, exactly. Anyway, I'm going to stop the recording now.